All right, in this second half of the unit, we're going to first talk about what I call compound conditions, meaning we have more than one criteria. Whenever we specify more than one criteria, and you can have half a dozen or more, not terribly uncommon. I think the most I've seen in the book is 2 or 3. But whenever you have more than one condition, you have to figure out where to put them. Do you put them on the same row like we just did in that previous one? If the conditions are on the same row, that is treated as an AND condition. Now, this is a Boolean algebra terminology stuff, but it's the same way we talk about it in English. We just said, I want a list of people who live in Bloomfield and came in 2015. If I said that, you would give me a list of people who met both criteria. It's an AND condition. It's the way we say it in English. The alternative is an OR condition. Give me a list of people whose favorite color is red, or the people whose favorite color is blue. I'd get two lists, sort of, or a blended list of people who like red or blue. In Access, in order to create an OR condition, you must list the criteria on separate rows. I'm going to see that here in just a minute. This, by the way, is page 150 in your book, so they do talk about that. Let's close the earlier visits query if you still have it open. I'm going to save it. And let's create another one. You're going to do this a lot, this chapter, creating queries. Create query design. And what I want this time is the hospital administrator came in and she said, I want a list of old people who came. I want to know how many old people came in with the flu this year. Well, in order to make the list, you got to be old and you got to have had the flu. So that's an AND criteria. In order to come up with this information, once again, we need visits and patients. So once again, I select the two of them. And I asked the boss, what do you want to see? She said, give me the patient's first name, last name, birth date, because we want to know if they're old, phone, and city. Let me know when they came in, and of course we need to know the reason because we're looking for the flu. So now we need to specify criteria. I asked the boss, what makes somebody old? She's being kind to me, and she says, as long as they were born in 1956 or before. So how do we specify that criteria? It's a birth date thing. And we want to know again before or in 1956, but we can't just use the year. It's a very common mistake. You can't say in here less than 1956 because we got an entire date here. So how do I designate born in 56 or before? We could say less than 1957-11, right? Before 1957. But she said in 56 or before, so I'm going to say less than or equal to 1956. Oops, got to put the date in. 12/31, 56. That's another way to say it. Sometimes there's more than one way to say the criteria. This says, give me anybody who was born before January or on, excuse me, notice the equal sign, less than or equal to 12/31/1956. That'll include all the 1956s and everybody before that. But that's just a list of old people. I don't need a list of old people. I only want the ones who got the flu. So that's the reason column. And in there, lowercase influenza. I have to know that in my database they're not called flu. They're called influenza. If I put flu in there, you get nothing. And that happens occasionally. You'll ask a question, how many people meet these criteria? None. Does that mean there's none there, or does that mean your criteria are wrong? That's for you to figure out. So I put both of these on the same line. So that says, meet, you must meet both criteria. It's an AND condition. Let's run it. And we'll see that there's two people and they both live in Hartford. But they both had the flu and they were both born before 1956. So I kind of trust that answer. Seems pretty good. So now we have a list. And again, if I want to, after the flu season is over in January, I can run this query again and get a list of the old people who got the flu and get updated data. Let's save that as older and flu patients. Older and flu patients. Or just older flu patients, or whatever you want to call it. When you're doing the test, obviously call them what you want, what they want. And I would capitalize them the same way as well. I don't trust them to know the difference. Close that. And let's copy it again. To copy it, find your older and flu patients, right click, copy, middle of nowhere, paste. Change the word and to or. So now it's, oh, and take out the copy of, we don't need that. Now it's older or flu patients. Now if the boss were to say, give me a list of people who were older and include also in that list everybody who got the flu. Problem is they said and that can get very confusing. We in the English language mangle that. We should be saying or. Give me a list of people who were old or had the flu. If they have one or the other. So let's go in design view of older or flu. Make sure you get the right one. Design view. I right-clicked it to get to design view, or you can just go up there. And now I want an or clause. And remember from the description, if the condition is an or condition, and the book is very explicit about this, if it's an or condition, you put one criteria on one row, and notice the next row says or. I'm going to move the influenza criteria because it's the easiest one. I'm just going to delete it, move down a row, and type influenza again. But now they're on separate rows. Because they're in separate rows, this is an or condition, they will be included in the answer if they meet either of these criteria. Make you a little smarter than the average Microsoft Office student. The way Access really looks at this is if you meet the criteria of any row. Do you fall into row number 1? Old. Sure, you're in. No, I don't fall into row number 1. Do you fall into row number 2? Did you have the flu? Yes, you're in. So I could put more stuff in here, and I could say if they had the flu and they lived in Hartford, now that is we're not going to do it, don't bother. But notice that's on the same row with flu. And so now, are you old? No. Do you live in Hartford and have the flu? But you have to have both. I live in Hartford. Do you have the flu? No, you're out. Access looks at each one of these rows. If you meet the criteria for any row, you're in. But you must meet all the criteria for the entire row. So that second row has 2 criteria. You must meet them both. It's not what we want. But before we finish this, let's sort by birth date, descending. So go into the birth date column, go to the sort row. We haven't done this in a while, and choose descending. That means that that's descending, all the young people first and older people last. Run the query and you'll see why we did that. At the top of the list are a bunch of people born in 91, 89, 86. Why are they there? They're not old because they had the flu. Then after that first batch are the 1955s and before. They're all in here because they're old, because they got old. I guess that's another disease you can get. Because they're old. Here's one with the flu. Yeah, well, you met both criteria. Congratulations, you're in. Not twice, but you're in. The criteria is old or you've had the flu. If you've had the flu and you're old, you're in once. Not twice, once. Questions about ands and ors? Okay, the next couple of examples, if you're following along in the book, are not in the book. Let's save older or flu. I'm just going to close it. When you close it, if it hasn't been saved, you'll be told. Yes, save it. And let's create another query. Now this one's interesting. Forrest was asking me about this during the break. I want another query, and I want this time patients and billing. So here's billing and patients. I'm going to select those two and add them. Where's the relationship? Close this, by the way. There isn't one. There is no common field between those two. We don't just bill patients at random. We only bill them because they made a visit. Then we bill them. The relationship between patient and billing is called an indirect relationship. They're not directly related. We need another table. So I'm going back to show table. That's this button up here. I'm going to add one because I forgot one. I'm going to add the visits table. And now watch what happens. Now everybody's connected. I can move them around and I can see a chain of events. In order to take fields from more than one table, they have to be related, or you must include all the tables in between. I don't want anything from the visits table. That doesn't matter. I still got to have it so I can get from patients to billing. If you've done this and there's still a line missing, there's a relationship missing. And you can define it. I could actually drag from patient here to patient there, and it'll create a temporary, for the purposes of this query only, relationship. You shouldn't need to do that. I want everybody who visited in 2015. But let's make a list here. What do we need first? First name from the patient. Last name. Invoice date. That's billing. Kind of scrolled that off the screen here. Invoice date. Invoice amount. Invoice item. First name, last name, because I want to know who I'm billing here, not some goofy number that nobody recognizes. First name, last name, invoice date, amount, and why. Or what was that last one I put? Invoice item. Yep. Notice I didn't use anything from visits, but it has to be there. Otherwise, you can't link the tables. If they're not linked, you can't use fields from both of them. By the way, hint, hint, if you're cheating and doing assignments, you need this for the test. If you need to get rid of one of these, personally, I never knew. I just say, I'm not using it, so what? But if you do need to get rid of one because the test or the book tells you to, just click the top of it, press the delete key, and it'll go away. Delete, not backspace, delete. Click the title, and notice it's dark red around the outside, sort of hard to see. And delete it, it'll go away. So it's easy, but the book never really tells you how to do it. It just lets you bypass the training if you wanted to, not all of it. Okay, we need all three of these. Now, I want people who were invoiced in 2015. How do I do that? I could say less than 1/1/2016 like we did before. But if my invoices go back to the year 1999 or something like that, I'll get all of those. I just want 2015. We're going to use that between operator that I said was so easy to use. Invoice date. I want a list of all the invoices between January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015. Between one, and I don't do pound signs. 1/1, I gotta type it right. /15. I don't even type the 2000, too lazy. And you put a space there. And 12/31/15. If you press enter, it'll lock that in. You'll see the pound signs. Remember, you can stretch this if you want to see the whole criteria. And there it is. And I'm going to sort that ascending by the invoice date, just so I can see them in order. Just because I have a criteria doesn't mean they sort by that. You have to sort to get it the right way. So that's really easy. Right. There. Did I type 11? What did I type? Oh, all the year. Okay. So here they are ascending. We don't have anything before 11 November, so that scared me for a minute there. But again, imagine a database that's been alive for 25 years and you want to see everybody in a certain year. This is probably the quickest way to do it. Actually, there's another I will show you in just a minute that's even a little quicker. But that's not bad. Let's go back to design view. And let's say instead of including in addition to this, I want all the billings that are between $100 and $200 for the amount. You can use between for just about anything. I haven't tried it, but I think you can even use it for text. Give me all the people whose names are between A and D. By the way, between includes the endpoints. If you run it now, our list should be smaller, and it's still in 2015, but only the ones that are in the $100 range, the $200 range. There's no 200s there because there aren't any in the database. I looked. But there's 100s, there's 150s, and so on. So between is another way that you can get stuff done. I think it simplifies things. And for those of you fighting with the homework assignment, that probably made one of the questions a little easier. I think we're supposed to save that. Yeah, let's save that to call it using between. Save using between. So if you need a quick reminder, you can go back to that. Let's close it. And create another query using all three tables, because again, I want patients and billing, all three. I've learned my lesson. I know I need all three. I just dragged a box until it touched them and they all turned blue. Add them all, close them all. They don't necessarily have to be in order. It just drives me crazy to have the lines crossing like that. First name, last name. So that's from patient again. First name, last name, invoice date, and invoice item. Pretty similar to the last one. Might have been able to copy it. But let's say that there was a patient in here yesterday, and his name started with B. That's all I remember. That's the invoice item. His name starts with B. How can I find him? Well, I could do a between A and B, kind of. I could, but how do you say starts with B? There is a starts with in datasheet view, but not here. The way you do it is using the like clause. It sounds so Valley Girl to me when I use this thing. Like this and that. And it's terrible. But anyways, like clauses use wildcards. Anybody play poker? Julia, what's a wildcard? Can be whatever you want. It represents anything. Same thing here. There are two wildcards. I'm going to skip the other one because I hardly ever use it. The primary wildcard is the asterisk, a star. Shift 8. If we type a B, what do we want to come after the B? Anything. We type a star. Unlike poker, a wildcard in Access represents any number of characters as well as any character. So this means literally anything after the B. It has to start with a B, but after that, anything goes, including nothing. Occasionally that comes in handy. Okay. If somebody's last name was B, this would match. Run it. Everybody's last name starts with B. Did you get extra ones? You got nothing. Did you type a B and a star? Did you put a space in there? Oh, I bet you did. If you type B space star, that means it has to start with a B followed by a space, then a star. How many of those are there? No.